paid $5 to watch a live stream. Nothing more, nothing less. Just a link, a payment, and a promise of something lave. No warning, no description, just a thread buried deep in the web. I didn't think much of it at first. But what happened that night, what I saw, still haunts me. If it was real, then I wasn't just a viewer. I was a participant, and I didn't close that tab. I walked away with something much darker. It was late, around 1 a.m., the type of hour where you tell yourself you'll go to bed in a minute, but you end up deep into another rabbit hole. I should have been asleep. I had work in the morning, but the constant flicker of my phone kept me scrolling, mindlessly hopping from one link to the next. It was a regular routine I had gotten used to. Browsing old forums, clicking on random threads, and letting time slip away unnoticed. But that night, something caught my eye. I stumbled across an old forum, one of those relics of the past, where activity was sparse and posts gathered dust for hours, sometimes days, before receiving a response. I hadn't been on this forum in years, but something felt different this time. The layout was familiar, yet it seemed neglected. Old posts buried beneath newer, irrelevant discussions. I scrolled through, almost absent-mindedly, when something stood out. A thread with no title, no description, nothing to explain its contents. Just a single link. There was something eerie about it. Most threads have at least a sentence or two of context, but not this one. It was minimalist. Just a link. I could have easily scrolled past it. But for some reason, my eyes lingered on the single reply beneath it. $5 entry. Live tonight. Don't miss it. That was it. No more information. No questions. No one was reacting or even commenting. It was like it was placed there for someone to find, but not meant to be seen by everyone. My curiosity was instantly piqued. I sat there, frozen for a moment, unsure whether to click. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe it was just another scam. Maybe it was some weird staged prank. But something about it felt deliberate, not for everyone, just for the curious ones, the ones willing to click. And I realized I was one of them. I could have closed the window, ignored the thread, and gone to bed. But I didn't. I clicked. And that simple action, that one moment of curiosity, changed everything. I wasn't sure what I was getting into. As soon as I clicked the link, the page loaded instantly, and I was met with a stark, black screen. No flashy ads, no bright colors, no distractions, just emptiness. The kind of emptiness that draws you in, forces you to focus. It was unsettling in a way, but in a strange, almost comforting way. There were no logos or titles, nothing that would identify the creator of the site or even hint at its purpose. Just a clean, professional-looking countdown. Stream starts in 12 o'clock. The timer ticked away, loud in the quiet of my room, its presence almost mocking me. I couldn't help but stare at it, wondering what I was about to experience. The simplicity of the page felt deliberate, too deliberate. The design didn't seem amateur. It was slick and polished, like something you would expect from a professional production, not some random late-night live stream. It didn't make sense, but I couldn't pull myself away. The more I thought about it, the more curious I became. What kind of stream could it possibly be? It wasn't like anything I had ever seen before, but something deep inside me told me to stick with it. Something in the back of my mind was whispering, urging me to see it through. Then, the payment option appeared on the screen. $5 entry. That was it. No subscription fees, no hidden charges, just $5. I paused for a moment, the logical part of my brain trying to reason with me. $5? It was so small a number, it barely felt like a risk. I could easily convince myself that it was probably just some cheap, interactive horror stream or a strange, experimental art piece. I could justify it in my head as something harmless, something that would let me get my curiosity fix without any real consequence. And so, without overthinking it, I clicked. The payment processed quickly. The countdown continued. The timer was down to 8 minutes now, and I couldn't stop watching. Something inside me said I should close the tab, but the excitement of what might come next overpowered my caution. I had already paid, already committed, and then the countdown hit 0, and everything changed. I was no longer just a spectator. I had taken the first step into something I couldn't undo. When the timer hit 0, it wasn't what I expected. The screen didn't just start playing like a normal video. Instead, it snapped to life, sharp and jarring, almost like an old TV flickering on after being turned off for years. First came the static, a loud crackling noise that filled my speakers, followed by a brief silence, as if something was glitching. For a moment, I thought the stream had failed. But then, a room appeared on the screen. Gray concrete walls, dimly lit by flickering fluorescent lights. The space was cold, barren, and empty. It felt like a forgotten, abandoned place. And in the center, bolted to the floor, was a metal chair. At first, I thought it was a mannequin, some kind of prop. The person sitting in it was still, their head hung low, their hands out of sight. It looked staged, like some twisted piece of performance art. But then, they moved, slowly, uneasily, their head lifted. Not in a normal way, but as if they were being forced to. It wasn't natural. It wasn't a reaction. It was controlled, deliberate. And that's when the chat exploded. Comments flooded the screen faster than I could read. Is this real? Is that a person? What the hell is going on? The confusion was palpable. The stream was no longer just an interactive experience. It was something more, something that didn't feel like a joke anymore. It felt real, too real. The room, the chair, the person in it, the eerily calm movements. It was like we weren't just watching a stream. We were a part of something far darker, something that was unfolding in real time, and we were witnessing it. Then, the first poll appeared. What should we ask? The options were simple. Stand up, look at the camera, or say your name. At first, it seemed harmless, almost like a game. There was nothing alarming about it, just an interactive choice to make the stream more engaging. The chat instantly flooded with responses, everyone spamming their votes for different options. Look at the camera quickly became the most popular choice, and soon the poll ended with that as the clear winner. The anticipation in the chat grew as everyone waited to see what would happen next. And then, the person in the chair began to move. Slowly, too slowly. It wasn't a natural reaction, like you'd expect from someone following a simple command. Their head lifted, but it wasn't done with any hesitation or confusion. It was too deliberate, too controlled, like they were being instructed to move in precise increments. They looked directly into the camera, and that's when the tension in the chat exploded. People started questioning what they were witnessing. What's going on? Is this real? Why is he moving like that? The unease spread like wildfire, and it was clear that something wasn't right. The movement wasn't spontaneous. It was mechanical. This wasn't just some harmless interaction. It felt like we were part of something bigger, something darker. The room, the atmosphere, the way the person moved, it was all too calculated. The chat was buzzing with confusion, but deep down, I realized that we weren't just watching anymore. We were participants in something much more unsettling. The chat slowed down. The once rapid-fire comments began to come in more slowly, as people started to question what they had just witnessed. That was weird. Is he acting? That was too smooth. But I didn't really hear any of that. My attention was completely fixed on the timing of everything. The movements, the way the person in the chair had lifted their head, the way they stared directly at the camera. None of it felt spontaneous. It wasn't the natural flow of a person reacting to a command. It was too precise, like someone was controlling the movements from behind the screen. It wasn't a lag, a technical delay. It was a deliberate pause before every action, almost like the person was waiting for something before they moved. The thought crept into my mind. Is this pre-recorded? I typed the question into the chat, hoping for a response. Is this pre-recorded? I hit send and waited, but no one replied, not a single comment in return. The chat continued, but the silence around my question was deafening. That's when it hit me. This wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't a trick or some staged interactive experience. It wasn't some clever pre-recorded stream. This was real, but it was real in a way that made my skin crawl. There was something so wrong about it. The unnatural timing, the mechanical precision, it all pointed to something much darker. This wasn't just a live stream. Something deeper was at play, something far more unsettling, and I couldn't look away. The next poll appeared, and this time, it was more aggressive than before. What next? The options were simple: stand up, walk forward, or turn off the lights. But there was something different about this poll. The responses came in faster, more urgent, almost like the viewers were waiting for something to happen. The chat was flooded with votes for lights off, the overwhelming choice. When the poll ended, there was no delay. The room, previously illuminated by flickering fluorescent lights, went completely dark, just like that. No gradual dimming, no flickering light. The lights were simply gone. The chat exploded in confusion, comments flying across the screen. Yo, how did that happen? Did the lights just turn off? The chaos in the chat was deafening, but I wasn't paying attention to that. My eyes were glued to the screen, fixed on the person in the chair. Even in the dark, I could still see his shape. The faint light allowed me to make out his outline, but nothing more. He was standing now, perfectly still, motionless in the darkness. But I never voted for him to stand. That wasn't an option. He wasn't supposed to move. Yet here he was, upright, unnervingly still. It felt like he was waiting for something, just as I was. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was horribly wrong. The unnatural stillness, the precision of everything. It wasn't like anything I had expected. It wasn't a game anymore. It wasn't just some horror stream. This was real, and I had no idea where it was going, but I couldn't look away. Then, the stream started glitching. At first, I thought it was just my connection. Frames began to skip. The audio cut out intermittently. It's not uncommon for live streams to have technical issues, and I convinced myself that this was just a minor hiccup. But then I noticed something strange. The chat started reacting too. Lag? One user typed. Nah, this is part of it, another responded. The comments were flooding in, and everyone seemed to think this was intentional. But it wasn't. Something was off. The glitching wasn't random. It felt deliberate. It felt like the stream was being tampered with. And then it happened. In the middle of the glitch, a single frame shifted. For just a split second, the camera moved, and I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Behind him, in the shadows of the room, there was a hallway, concrete walls, fluorescent lights buzzing faintly above. It looked like a stark, sterile corridor, exactly the kind you'd find in a hospital or a factory. But it wasn't the hallway that made my blood run cold. It was the sign on the wall, a simple sign, a faded, institutional label. It read, Maintenance, Level B2. My heart stopped. I didn't know how long I stared at it, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. That sign, it looked so familiar. It wasn't from the internet. It wasn't some set design or prop. I had seen it before. It was real. That sign was from a parking structure near my apartment. The same font, the same layout. I knew that sign like I knew the back of my hand. It was real. And that's when everything clicked. This wasn't a stream. This wasn't a setup. It was happening somewhere. Somewhere I didn't want to be. And I was watching it unfold in real time. I paused the stream, my heart racing, as I rewound it frame by frame. I couldn't believe what I'd just seen, but I needed to be sure. The glitch had been quick, almost imperceptible, but it was there. I focused on the moment, zooming in on the frame until I could see it clearly, a close-up of the sign. It was a simple, institutional label. Faded and worn, but there was no mistaking it. The words were clear. Maintenance, Level B2. My stomach dropped. I felt a cold shiver run through me as I stared at the sign, my eyes unwilling to leave it. I had seen that sign before. It wasn't from a movie. It wasn't some random stock image. It was real. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. There's an underground parking structure near my apartment. Level B2. Same font, same layout, same faded sign. I recognized it immediately. It wasn't some random coincidence. It was real. My mind scrambled to make sense of it, to understand how this could be possible. How could this be connected to me? How was something I recognized from my own life appearing in this live stream? My breath caught in my chest as I began to piece it all together. This wasn't a stream. This wasn't some interactive experience or a game. What I had been watching was something far worse. It wasn't just some random person in a room. It wasn't some staged, fictional scenario. This was real. This was happening somewhere, and it was happening right under my nose, connected to my world, my reality. And that's when the panic set in. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This wasn't something I could just brush off. The dread started to creep in, slowly at first, then all at once. I wasn't just a viewer. I was involved in something much darker than I had ever imagined. I looked around my room. I don't know why. I didn't hear anything, but it was instinct. My body was on edge, as if something might be there watching me. I scanned the corners of my room, half expecting someone or something to be lurking in the shadows. The feeling of being watched was suffocating. The silence of my room felt oppressive, like it was closing in on me. I shook my head, trying to clear the unease that was crawling up my spine, but I couldn't shake the feeling. My mind was racing, my thoughts disjointed. The rational part of me kept telling me to stop, that it was just a stream, just a coincidence. But something deep inside me told me this was real. I checked the time. 2:47 a.m. The stream was still running, still playing in front of me, and the chat was still active. The messages were coming in faster now, but I couldn't focus on them. I wasn't even reading them anymore. Then another poll appeared. Should we show the next camera? The question hung there on the screen, a simple choice with such terrifying implications. I didn't vote. I didn't touch anything. I just sat there staring at the screen, frozen. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could feel my breath quicken, but I didn't move. I knew what was coming. Deep down, I already knew. The poll went on for just a few seconds, but the responses were swift, overwhelming. The votes surged through the chat, and within moments, 100% of them were in. Everyone was in agreement. The screen cut to black. No warning, no pause, just a sudden jarring shift into complete darkness. I sat there, staring at the black screen, my mind racing. What was going to happen next? I felt like I was on the edge of something terrible, and I couldn't turn away. The chat was still buzzing, but it felt distant now. All I could hear was the pounding of my own heart and the dread building inside me. Something was coming, and I had no idea what it was. Silence, complete silence. It felt like the entire world held its breath. Then, suddenly, a new camera angle appeared on the screen. A hallway, concrete walls lit by flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed faintly above. It was the same hallway I had briefly glimpsed during the glitch earlier, the one I thought was a mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. It was real. The hallway stretched out in front of me, cold and sterile, leading to a door at the end. The door was simple, unremarkable, but the way it stood there, closed, waiting, made everything feel like it was building towards something inevitable. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at it, frozen in place. The chat went insane. Where is this? Is that a real building? Someone find this place. The messages flooded the screen, people scrambling to understand what they were seeing, searching for answers. But I didn't care about the chat. I didn't even look at the comments. I couldn't. I was too focused on the door, the hallway, the oppressive silence that surrounded it. I knew what was coming next. I could feel it. But I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to know what lay behind that door. But deep down, I already knew I had no choice. A new poll appeared on the screen. The words stared back at me. Should we knock? My heart skipped a beat, and I froze. The weight of the question hit me like a freight train. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen, unable to move, unable to breathe. Knock? Was this real? Was this part of the stream? Was this just some twisted game? Before I could even process the question, panic overtook me. I slammed my laptop shut, cutting off the stream, the chat, everything. The screen went black, but the silence that followed felt suffocating, oppressive. I sat there in the dark, motionless, my body stiff with fear. I didn't think. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe for a moment, too terrified to make a sound. The air felt thick. Every second stretched on forever. I sat there, staring at nothing, waiting. My mind raced, but there was no escape from the dread that had settled in my chest. This isn't real, I kept telling myself. It can't be real. But deep down, I knew. Something was happening. Something was in motion, and I was part of it. And then, at exactly 3:03 a.m., I heard it. A knock on my door. It was soft at first, almost tentative. Just one knock. But it echoed through my apartment, cutting through the silence with terrifying precision. My breath caught in my throat. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I didn't move. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there, frozen, as the sound of that single knock reverberated through the room. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to acknowledge what was happening. But the knock came again, louder this time, unmistakable. It was real. It was here. And in that moment, I knew whatever had been unfolding on that screen, whatever had pulled me into this nightmare, had just followed me home. The knock didn't stop. It echoed through my apartment, vibrating in the walls, making my heart race faster with every beat. The sound was deafening, relentless, each knock growing louder, as if whoever, or whatever, was on the other side of that door was determined to get in. I sat frozen, my body paralyzed with fear. Every part of me wanted to open the door, to look outside, to end whatever was happening, but my legs wouldn't move. My hands trembled, my breath shallow, but I couldn't make myself act. The seconds stretched on forever. The knocks felt like they were drilling into my mind, carving away any sense of safety or control. It was as if the door was no longer just a physical barrier. It had become the threshold between my reality and something else, something dark and unknowable. I didn't open the door. I didn't want to. I couldn't bear to face whatever was on the other side. Yet, I was unable to look away, unable to tear my eyes from that door, as though doing so might invite whatever was coming in. The knock grew louder, faster, the urgency building. It felt like time was stretching, like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I stayed motionless, heart pounding in my chest, the sound of those knocks becoming my entire world. And then, suddenly, it stopped. The silence that followed was suffocating. It was so complete, so profound, that I could almost hear the echo of the knock lingering in my bones. I didn't know what I'd been expecting. Maybe the door opening, maybe a voice from the other side, maybe the end of whatever twisted game had begun. But nothing happened. The live stream ended. The screen in front of me went black, and the chat, which had been an unbroken stream of messages just moments ago, went silent. I don't know what to think. I don't know what I was expecting. But one thing became painfully clear in that moment. I wasn't alone anymore. Whatever had started with that strange stream, whatever had followed me from the screen to my apartment, wasn't over. It was just beginning, and somehow, I knew it was never going to leave. If you were in that chat, what would you have done? Stayed? Or left before it got worse? Let me know in the comments below. This is Taka Tales. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories. And remember, sometimes curiosity doesn't just kill the cat. It brings the cat right to your door. See you next time.